All right, it is Friday, January the 23rd, 2026. And of course, a lot is going on in the world, and we'll be talking about that here on Pod TV and hearing what folks have to say about a number of these news stories as we report them here on the network and all along those lines. The U.S. is bracing for extremely dangerous winter storms. So that is something that is going on even here in North Carolina. As a matter of fact, I just heard the folks in my apartment putting things out as precaution for the snow and ice and all along those lines. So definitely, I know that people are preparing the roads and the various places around, whether it's rural areas or whether it's the urban areas around North Carolina and all along those lines. So definitely, there is preparations for this winter storm that is about to hit and all along those lines. Ukraine, Russia, and the U.S. will be discussing fraught issues of territorial concessions in Abu Dhabi. So that is something that folks are talking about as well. And enough is enough. Hundreds of Minnesota businesses are taking stand against ICE. So that is something that's being reported as well. So definitely a lot's going on, and we're always glad to be talking about these various issues, these various world issues that are taking place and all along those lines. So like I said, a lot's going on in the world. Canada's Carney fired back at Trump after the Davos speech and all along those lines. So Canada's Carney fires back at Trump after the speech at Davos. So world order changing, still not rupturing is what folks are saying. That's what the finance chief says, and all along those lines. But Mark Carney says firmly that Canada doesn't want to become to live because of the United States. So definitely there is some tension between our neighbors to the north and all along that line and everything like that. And Carney's China deal is open for things to change as well. So definitely there is a change in the order of the world. And Greek's prime minister rebukes Trump's board of peace. So it looks like the Greek prime minister is saying that he does not, or they do not want to be part of that and all along those lines. So definitely still trying to get his board of peace together. And the European markets edge lower. Ericsson pops 9% after its fourth quarter profit beat and everything like that. So that's something that people are talking about as well. Peru's president may be ousted over a secret meeting with Chinese businessman. So Peru is in the fires of a scandal as well. So Peru's interim president is embroiled in a scandal over a secret meeting with Chinese businessman. So Peru's president has been asked to appear before Congress amid scandal over the meeting with those Chinese business folks, but he refuses to resign over those secret meetings and all along those lines. So there's stuff going on in that place. And Kushner presents a master plan for rebuilding post-war Gaza. So definitely there's something going on in that space, as apparently Jared Kushner has come up with a master plan for rebuilding post-war Gaza, and we'll see how this goes as well. So definitely 180 skyscrapers for Gaza. Trump's son-in-law Kushner unveils that master plan for that particular part of the world. It looks like they're going to be trying to build a bunch of skyscrapers in that area. And Seth Meyers says Trump's deals are as strong as his pinky swear, and all along those lines. And no one can trust him. Trump's tortured allies confront the world without America. So definitely, it looks like a disaster averted at Davos. But world is ever vulnerable to capricious Trump's whims, is what one of the news outlets is saying. That being the Guardian, and all along those lines. And the EU plans to unfreeze a trade deal with the U.S. and vote on ratification and all along those lines. So Europe leaders are scrambling to find a path forward with Trump. So definitely that's something we're hearing as well. And an infamous climber made history with a death-defying ropeless summit. Now he's on for something far more perplexing. So questions for Alex Honnold as he tries to climb a skyscraper in Taipei and everything like that. So definitely that's something going on as Iran protest deaths seen rising with one estimate topping 20,000. So definitely there's a lot of conflicts going on in the world. And NATO chief Mark Rutte was in the news as well, because it looks like there's a lot of things going on in that space, and always glad to be talking about a variety of these stories as he is showing he's the Trump whisperer after Greenland talks are going on as well. And apparently, there's some conversation as Greenland diplomacy with Trump is very much in the news and all along those lines. And Iran kills 3 journalists in Gaza, including a CBS News contributor. So that is something that is being reported in the world stage as well. And definitely, folks are paying attention to what's going on in Iran. And a gunman is at large in Australia after leaving 3 dead and 1 wounded. So there has been a break of crime there in Australia, at least something that's going on in that space. And did the U.S. give Greenland back to Denmark? Trump omits history at Davos. So definitely, we're always interested to see what Trump's knowledge of history is and all along those places. And Trump says Canada is disinvited from his board of peace. So apparently, he's disinvited Canada from the board of peace. So there's still some conflict going on between France and the U.S. And France seizes a suspicious shadow fleet. So that's something that's being talked about in the news, as well as they seize a suspected Russian vehicle and all along those lines. So that's just some of the news items. I'm going to bring in Rick Rosner, see what he's got on his mind and what's going on in his world. But that's just a couple of the news items that I saw. But yes, people are still talking about Davos and still talking about a number of the other things, including this shadow fleet that was picked up by the French in the Mediterranean. So definitely lots going on throughout the world, including that incident with the Peru president who might have had some bad business dealings and might be getting ousted from his government and all along those lines. So how's things going? I mean,
all right. Now I know we're not supposed to use the R word anymore, but what ICE is doing in Maine is truly retarded. ICE is surging in Maine. Maine has 10,000 undocumented immigrants. Also, the temperatures in Maine range from 1 degree to 27 degrees. It's the depth of winter, brutal cold. For every illegal in Maine, Florida has 120. Maine has 10,000. Florida has 1.2 million. Texas, 2 million. California, 3 million. Why are we messing with Maine, especially at this time of year? It's incompetent. It's performatively cruel. There's that little Bovino guy who likes to wear Nazi stormtrooper jackets. I guess he thinks it's a good look. It's crazy. They've got no supervision. I saw in the news last night that ICE is now the 5th best funded police force in the world. I don't know.
In the world? Wow.
I don't know if that's accurate, but it's 22,000 yahoos under, with Kristi Noem with no previous law enforcement experience. And I don't, Trump's approval is back down to the lowest of his second term, 41% on Silver Bulletin, which averages out polls. People don't like this. They don't like Trump's nonsense.
Yeah, they don't like that at all. I'm imagining that maybe Israel is one of the top law enforcement ones around the world, because I know they have a very extensive law enforcement, particularly for a country of its size and everything like that, and all in that space. So maybe that's where it is going on in that way. So we'll find out if that's going on. By the way, it looks like the FBI is investigating the death, and maybe you can look this up, of the Indianapolis Colts owner, Jim Irsay. So apparently this is a trending story in the Washington Post and everything like that. But I guess maybe it was a mysterious death, but he is the Indianapolis Colts owner, and it looks like they are investigating it, and the FBI has gotten involved. So I'm trying to figure out why the FBI is involved. And like I said yesterday, apparently new ICE policies coming back to ICE are going to allow officers to enter homes without a judge's warrant. And some experts of law are not exactly.
So let's talk. Okay, here's he was only 65, and towards the end of his life, he was on pain pills and ketamine,
Right.
And that he had a problem with pain pills and that he'd relapsed, and so maybe so his doctor, Dr. Harry Hartunian, Harutunian, is, and supposed addiction specialist.
Okay, so maybe that's what it was. Maybe he's on an addiction. That still doesn't rise to a FBI offense, I don't think. But maybe they're investigating him for abuse, much in the way that they investigated Elvis's doctor way back when and everything like that. So maybe that's where.
Yeah, when Elvis, I mean, Elvis had a tame doctor who'd write him prescriptions for whatever. When Elvis died, Elvis had prescriptions for 17 different uppers and downers.
Oh, wow.
You take a bunch of uppers. Those are old school terms, but you take a bunch of amphetamine type drugs to get up in the morning and then to go to bed. Take a bunch of barbiturates, and when you take a ton of them, you can't poop, and they slow down the motion of your intestines to move poop through you, and you get a buildup. And Elvis famously died while trying to poop.
Oh, well, I didn't realize that that's what he was trying to do. So he was training, and that's what he did during that time.
Yeah, there's a thing called the Valsalva maneuver, where if you push too hard, if you bend over, and if you've got a fat tummy, you can pinch off the main aorta coming out of your heart. If you pinch it, you give yourself a heart attack and you die. There was a character on The Sopranos who died from the same thing. You really got to get your poop in order. And then, one gross detail. When they did the autopsy, they found a 5-inch poop in him. One that was, so you can't get that poop out if you're on 17 different drugs.
Yeah, it was all jammed in and everything like that. But, Fortune magazine is reporting, and I know we talk about it quite often. We'll probably talk about it this coming Monday as well on Economics Monday with David Walker. But there is a report then saying that some form of crisis is almost inevitable. The $38 trillion national debt will soon be growing faster. So they're saying that some of these actions, whether it's the tariffs or other things, are going to cause the debt to grow. It's already at 38 trillion. So maybe we're going to get to 100 trillion or something like that. So what's your thoughts on?
So under, I think, both Biden and Trump, we added about 2 trillion per year.
Wow.
Also under Obama, we had the crash of 2008, which was caused by lenders just giving a mortgage to any frickin' buddy and then bundling up the mortgages and selling them to suckers. And that whole house of cards collapsed, and Obama had to spend his ass off to pull us out of the Great Recession. Wow. So just about every recent president has been adding at least $1 trillion a year to the deficit.
Yeah, and that's definitely the case. By the way, I know that a lot of us on the network are the biggest fans of Trump, but apparently one of the Trumps has got in the news for good things and all along those lines. So you might want to look it up, but apparently Byron Trump came to the rescue of some young lady and all along those lines. So I've been seeing that float through the news a couple of times and all along those lines. I didn't know if you'd heard about this, but apparently he came to the rescue of some young lady who I think was being abused and all in that space. So he called a woman around 22 around the clock, and that's what a jealous ex says. So apparently he had bombarded his secret sweetheart with late night texts and calls. So that's not a good thing. But apparently he called London police, and this was reported on a couple of things after witnessing a abuse and everything like that.
Okay, this I guess this is a story that happened a year ago, but it's only coming out now. He was in London, like you said, and he saw this woman being punched by her boyfriend, I guess. Or no, maybe he didn't. Anyway, he called the cops or something. Right. Yeah.
Yes, I guess.
He was friends with this woman. She called him. He called the cops.
Right. So I'm sure that President Trump will find some way to spin this into some story of heroism and all along those lines. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out and all in that space. By the way, I know a lot of people are fans of certain cooks and all along those lines. And apparently the one that is very famous in New Orleans is closing his shop. So it looks like that is something that I saw in light news and all in that space. So it looks like he's getting ready to close his shop, which I think was his main shop, that being Emile, if I remember correctly, and everything like
Anatole's?
that. Huh?
Emil's. Let's look. Let's
Yeah,
look. Let's Emerald. Is it
Emerald. I think that's the one that's being closed, right?
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, he was super famous. Still is, I guess. But in the '90s, you couldn't miss him. He was all over TV. Um,
Yeah, he was all
yeah,
over. He was all over.
restaurants are tough. You want to. I mean, restaurants will bankrupt you if you keep them going after they become less popular. I don't know.
Yeah,
Freaking restaurants are if you own a restaurant or a bar, you have to be there like 14 hours a day, to keep everything from like spinning out of control.
yeah,
It's
and
a
apparently
brutal.
it's due to rising operational costs, and it's actually 34 restaurant and bar in New Orleans and Emerald's Coastal in Miramar, Florida. And he said the decision to close these restaurants was primarily due to rising operational costs. So apparently the one that opened in 2024, so it hadn't been open that long, was a tribute to Legacy's Portuguese heritage and family restaurants. It was a collaboration with his son and featured a menu of traditional Portuguese dishes, and apparently that restaurant's last day was last year and everything like that. But now he's looking, I guess, at closing another one more recently and everything. So definitely looks like he's closing a couple of them and all in that space, because this other one, it looks like it just was announced today and everything like.
Yeah, well, I would guess that he said that increasing costs, but I'd guess that there's decreasing tourism too. That New Orleans is a huge tourist destination, and people do not want to visit the U.S. right now.
No, they don't want to visit the U.S. Speaking of not visiting the U.S., I see we've been joined by Jacoby as well, everything like that. I thought that I would never see, and this is actually involving you, Rick, as well, because it's where you're at. I thought that I would never see the day that the Bus family sold the Lakers after they got the Lakers and everything. But apparently, for a couple of cool billions, because they did get a nice little paycheck and everything, the Bus family has sold the Lakers and everything like that. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out with even uh, LeBron James and other Lakers careers and everything. But yeah, they
Now Jacoby can talk about this more than I. Well, I mean, the they have LeBron, who's arguably the greatest player of all time, but he's also a little bit of a brick tied to their leg because he can't deliver a championship by himself, but he costs. Have Jacoby talk. I mean, the Lakers are in a tough position.
Yeah, and apparently infighting drove the $10 billion sale. It was $10 billion of the Lakers, and some of the Bus family members are thinking that it was worth 12 billion or more. So there's some infighting about the cost of the Lakers and whether they could have gotten a better deal and everything like that. So apparently infighting.
There's a sitcom about this, the starring Kate Hudson, which is about the Bus family and the Lakers, and it's really funny. And Kate Hudson just got nominated for an Oscar. So if you wanted like some insight into what's the name of I'll look it up, but it's a very funny show.
Yeah, Sophie, any take on this? Because they're saying that apparently the bombshell report after the sale reveals the nauseating family drama behind the Lakers sale, and some people are saying that some of the family members, I guess the owner and everything, was an absolute dictator and everything like that. So what are you hearing about this $10 billion sale? Because like I said, I was thinking that the Lakers were going to be under the Bus family for decades.
I mean, that was good. It wasn't going to be up under the Bus family for decades. It was, I mean, at some point, everything comes to an end, and that was the Bus family's run. So them selling it, I knew they were getting frustrated. Jeannie Buss was getting frustrated with LeBron and working with him. And yes, LeBron right now is a brick around the Lakers. LeBron, yes, arguably the greatest player, or one, and definitely one of them. But the problem is he's old. He's very old right now. Sure, he's still putting up some numbers here and there, but he's old and he needs help. He's not going to be able to do it. Luka Doncic, great player, phenomenal player, but the problem with Luka doesn't play defense. So you have also you got he's injured right now, but his nickname is AR-15. But Austin Reeves is sitting on the bench because he's injured. But either way, him coming back, that's not really going to do much for defense. Because the problem is the top teams right now, the Lakers, I think, are sitting at number 5. They'll steadily drop and they'll be in the bottom half. They'll easily be closer towards that 7, 8 seed rather than sitting at that 5th seed because there's some other teams that are starting to catch them. But again, the problem is they have no defense on the wings. Sure, you got LeBron, but then also you don't really have a powerhouse in the middle to stop what goes in the middle. So you have a soft cushion defense in the middle. It's just you just got LeBron and Luka and Austin shooting. So yeah, the Lakers, in terms of the NBA, they're not a top team. They're not beating OKC. Honestly, they're not beating Houston. They're not beating Denver. So they're going to struggle the whole rest of the year unless they make some trades. And I don't think they're going to come off LeBron because Bronny's there. And Bronny should never have been signed. He is not an NBA player, but they signed him just to keep LeBron. That was the only reason Bronny. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Bronny couldn't be developed into an NBA player, but he was not great coming out of college. He was he wasn't really. He was barely a developmental league player, and he's still a developmental league player, but only because LeBron is there. It's the only reason Bronny.
LeBron wanted to be the first NBA player to play with his son on the same team. And yeah, LeBron rides the bench. You know, sometimes they give him a few minutes of junk time, or if enough people are injured, he'll get in. But he doesn't produce a lot for the team. But this show, Running Point, starring Kate Hudson, Justin Theroux. It's a sitcom about the situation you just mentioned, about the Buss family. The Buss family, Jenny Buss is one of the producers of the show that makes fun of her and the whole situation, which is a crazy that they would make a sitcom out of her own family's dysfunction. And it's a funny show.
Yeah, and a lot of people make sitcoms, and you're interested to see who's on the team of some of these movies and everything. Like I said yesterday, I was watching a movie about women in the rodeo and some of the sports that they are now being allowed into, like bronco riding and everything like that. And I want to say that was being produced by one of the Bush daughters. I think it was Gina Bush Hager that was one of the producers of that and everything like that. But that's just an aside. But just really quickly,
LeBron himself is a TV producer.
Right. LeBron's produced
Steph
TV.
Curry has a sitcom starring Steph Curry, where he plays himself, and like one of his ne'er-do-well high school friends reconnects with him and scams Steph Curry. And so there's some funny.
Well, Steph Curry also has a movie that just is about to be released called Goated, which is basically about him shooting threes in the NBA. He also has what was it? Good Times. I think it was the remake that he did that he was producer on, and it got canceled because nobody was going to watch that because it was too stereotyped, and it got to be kind of offensive in a way because it was really, it was pretty bad.
So, but it was really bad and everything like that. Just really quickly coming back to world news and everything like that, because I had a quick question about this rift that's going on that Jacoby keeps talking about. Because is Trump trying to get Gaza to be the new old Lebanon? Because apparently they're talking about 180 skyscrapers and everything like that. So apparently Kushner.
Yes, they are. They're trying to turn it into a fancy ass resort. Jared Kushner, who hasn't been elected or appointed to anything, he's kind of self-appointed. He put out a plan for Gaza, which to a lot of people looks crazy. But they want to turn now. Gaza is 25 miles north to south, 5 miles east to west. It's got a 25-mile coast, which could be beautiful if you want to fill it with beach resorts. But what are you going to do with the 2 million Gazans? Well, great. If you want to turn all of Gaza into a giant hotel resort and put 2 million Gazans to work, like serving rich tourists, I mean, maybe
That's not what they want to do. They want to ethnically cleanse Gaza. That was the whole plan. They put this out a long time ago. I don't know why the confusion's there. Trump put out an AI video about it. Yes, they've been trying to ethnically cleanse Gaza for a little while. That is the whole point.
Where do you put 2 million people?
They don't care.
Yeah, that's what he meant. When
That's
he said
the problem.
Because if you're doing ethnic cleansing, you can kill a lot of those folks and everything like that, or get rid of them.
That's why. Have you noticed that there's not been any coverage on what's going on there?
They're still killing people. Israel.
Yep. And have you noticed we haven't covered anything about it, and all he keeps ranting and raving about is he stopped a war that's still killing people. The same thing is going on in the other wars that he supposedly stopped. Because the one in the Congo, remember the one in the Congo that he rants and raves about? Well, they didn't make it with the actual tribe that was actually doing all the other, doing a lot of the atrocities that was going on. So there was no peace deal to be had. So the killing is still happening, but we're just sitting here and he just puts out propaganda.
Israel just blew up 3 journalists over in Gaza.
Yep.
They've killed about 250 journalists, and one of them worked for CBS. But you don't see CBS talking about it because Barry Weiss is in charge of CBS. And
even worse, guess who also is a member of guess who's a member of that peace group?
Putin. So you can join Trump's let's redo Gaza club if you have $1 billion to give to, I don't know who gets the billion, but
Jared Kushner and Trump get the billions. That's what it is. That's why they put the money in a Qatari bank, because you can't trace it now. So they give them the money. You can't trace what's going on with the money. All you get is Trump saying, well, I control the money.
Well, that's
because it's in your bank account.
That's probably why the Greek prime minister said that they wanted no part of this club, and they refused to join the club. And then, of course, Trump also disinvited the Canadian prime minister. So he disinvited, I think, 1 or 2 people. But I know the Greek prime minister disinvited themselves and everything like that. So they're like, that's I want to be part of this board.
And then in the same vein, you heard that Trump is suing a bank for not donating to his ballroom. So this is all an authoritarian play. This is just creating a new oligarchy. That's all this is. But MAGA lets it happen.
So Trump has trouble getting loans, and he accuses banks of debanking him. Debanking is when a bank looks at your financial situation and goes, where's this money coming from? And if they think it's dirty, they will say, no, we don't want to do business with you. My wife and I helped our kid get a mortgage in England, and we had to supply so many financial documents, the pages and pages, like just a big thing, to prove that the money we were helping her with didn't have a dirty source. And Trump says this is what's happening with him, that banks won't do business with him, and it's political. It's not political. Trump has defaulted on more than $1 billion worth of bonds and loans. No,
he's been defaulting left and right and everything like
money back. So,
speaking of defaulting and all along those lines, it's amazing when other politicians get a bump in popularity, and they get a bump in popularity of a item, and their stock goes up and everything like that. So I want to get to a lighter story that involves a world leader, and you'll love this one, Rick. But apparently iVision stock has soared because Macron, the president of France, was wearing some of their eyewear and everything like that. So their stock had a $4 million bump because of the iVision and the sports sunglasses that he was wearing at Davos. So I guess he was getting that cool James Bond-like look and everything like that. And then the stock market went up. It's actually, they said it was that Top Gun look.
Okay, for some reason, he was wearing sunglasses inside to give a speech. Maybe he had pink eye or who knows what. But okay. But let's go back to Gaza for a second. So Jared Kushner comes from a family of real estate criminals. His dad went to prison for a real estate scam. Jared Kushner has a plan where they put up 180 skyscrapers across Gaza. And this has all the marks of a boondoggle, where they come in with all these plans, and then it eventually collapses or gets done in a half-assed way, and investors lose their butts. But Kushner walks away with a couple $2 billion.
Yeah, he's gonna walk away with more than a couple billion, probably tens of billions at the rate that they're going and everything like that.
That has been the plan. They've stated it multiple times.
Yep, they've stated it multiple times. Speaking of plans and everything like that, do we think that these protests are going to be successful? Speaking of economics, because apparently Minnesota is having an economic boycott and blackout today. So there is an economic blackout protest and ICE operation set for the let's see, today is Friday, so yeah, it's set for today and everything like that. So hundreds of Minnesota businesses are taking a stand and are planning to close Friday to protest ICE.
Everybody's supposed to stay home from work and school, and they'll shut down a lot of stuff. Plus, the weather's freaking miserable. Will this achieve any political ends? No, because ICE is not accountable. You've got that, like I said, that Bovino guy who dresses like a stormtrooper. They are cosplaying at being like a stormtrooper force. They go in there, they F with everybody. As I said, Minnesota has 10,000 illegals versus 1.2 million for Florida. But they're freaking, because Florida's in the south. The further you go south, the more illegals you'll have, because that's where people come from. They come north from South America, Central America. Minnesota.
Well, undocumented individuals come from all over. Yes, there's a group that comes from undocumented individuals come from the southern or South America and come through that pipeline. But there are some that come from Canada. There are some that come from other various areas. There are individuals who've overstayed their visas. This has nothing to do with it. They're not going after undocumented individuals. They're going after people that are brown.
Yeah,
they just did they've stopped off-duty police officers in Minnesota. They just detained a jail somebody who works in the jail in Portland. They're going to Maine to find other people. Guess what they all have in common? They're all brown.
Yeah,
they all have melanin in their skin. They all maybe have an accent. So when we're talking about undocumented individuals, it doesn't matter that they're they're coming from the side. That doesn't matter. What it is we know what we have to be honest about what they're doing. They're in Minnesota going after brown people. They're literally said that.
But it's crazy because California 3 million, Texas 2 million, Florida 1.2 million undocumented, Maine 10,000, and they're effing with Maine.
The reason, and you know this, Rick, because just like how what's the favorite game that Sasha and Nick and all of them play? Chess. When you're going after these pawns, it makes it easier to go after the king. So you're not going to start off really attacking California the way that you're doing in Minneapolis. You tried that once and got kicked out. But now, hey, let's do the testing ground in Minneapolis, in Minnesota. Let's do a testing ground in another place like Maine that nobody's really gonna. Portland, they've been doing stuff in Portland, but hey, guess what? That's not being covered as much anymore because, as I just pointed out, they detained a dude working in a jail, and he's in the jail system. So
they listed their objective,
making it normalized.
Yeah, they want to arrest 1,400 people in Maine. That's 1/1000th of the number of illegals in Florida. Why? Why mess with Maine in the dead of winter? It's senseless.
Isn't Maine a Democratic
testing ground? It's just. No, it's a Democratic state. Yeah, and they were using it for intimidation purposes, especially because guess what's coming up? We have the election this year. But on top of that, again, it's a testing ground. You've got to test these things in particular areas. yes, it's uncoordinated. Just I agree with what the gentleman said a few days ago that came on. Yeah, it's still uncoordinated and still a cluster, but there is a pattern behind the chaos. You can see what they're doing, and we just have to be honest. They're removing. Take for example, trying to erase history. I talk about it all the time. That's what they're doing. Taking down a Confederate battle, a Confederate general is different from taking down a memorial to slavery and stuff like that. Big difference in the messaging and the meaning behind it. But what they're putting up, the Confederate statues, what they're taking down, because Philadelphia is now suing the Trump administration for taking down the slave memorial, but they're taking down slave memorials and all things around slavery and history around that. Because, hey, if you can whitewash that, guess what? People will forget it.
Yep, they just
I want to talk about, I mentioned ICE funding. So for the past 8 years, ICE funding has averaged $8 to $9 billion a year. Now, in the past year, ICE funding has gone to over $80 billion, a tenfold expansion in funding. Even though they only have 22,000 people, they are now super rich and they can play out all their bullshit. It was part of the big, beautiful bill, the tax cut for rich people.
It also just got extended, I think it was last night, where 7 Democrats jumped on board and passed the bill to add more ICE funding. So ICE has a ton of money. The people in ICE, I mean, sure, there's some good ones, but there are also some really, really bad ones. There are some really, really bad ones. And they don't care about, they've dehumanized the individuals that they're dealing with so much. They don't care about it. It's just about the dollars. Hey, I'm gonna use this kid as bait to get the family, to get the parents.
You talked about they held a cop for 4 hours, and ICE has a tactic. If they catch you in front of your house, you can say, look, I don't have my passport with me, but we're right at my house. Let me get my passport. And they prove I'm a citizen. Or let the cop is like, let me prove I'm a cop. They're like, nope, you're coming with us. And it's all crazy.
Yeah, it's totally called crazy. Speaking of all crazy and everything, apparently James Tallarico is going to be the one that's leading right now in Texas, but he's running against Jasmine Crockett, and they're facing off in a Texas Senate primary campaign. So she's going for the Senate and all along those lines. But Crockett is saying that she's the best candidate to reassemble the Democratic base and expand the electorate in the general election. So what is our thoughts about Jasmine Crockett and her run as a candidate for Senate?
I don't know a lot, but who are they running against on the Republican side? Is that frickin' Cronin versus who's the one?
I think I'm frozen.
Okay. But so, yeah, Crockett is leading Tallarico by 13 percentage points in the primary polls, but people worry that she won't be competitive in the general. Texas, is almost a purple state. They have more registered Democrats than they do Republicans, but it's hard to, the Republicans always show up in larger numbers. So Crockett may be a bad choice if they're really looking to flip that seat.
Yeah, it might be a bad choice. We'll see how that plays out. By the way, Vance was in the news, not just for the baby that he's getting ready to have, but apparently he acknowledged yesterday the Minnesota Department of Corrections is cooperating with ICE as well. So apparently he's changing his tune on Minneapolis immigration enforcement, and I guess acknowledging that they are cooperating with the Department of Corrections, which runs the prisons in that particular area, just like they run the Department of Corrections would run the prisons in just about all the states. I think in all the states now that I think about it. And everything like that. You're talking about drugs coming from Canada, and apparently, we got the Winter Olympics coming up, and this is a story that I saw that I was not familiar with. Maybe y'all are familiar with it, but there was a ex-Olympic snowboarder that was accused of being a drug kingpin, and he's now been arrested after more than a year on the lam, that being Ryan Wedding and everything like that. So apparently he's now in custody, even though he was running for a year, and I guess he was doing drugs and being a drug kingpin after he had been a Olympic snowboarder and all along those lines. So maybe he got addicted to pain himself and drugs while doing that, and then got into the business of selling. But yeah, he's been arrested on drug trafficking charges. So yeah, drugs do come from Canada as well, because that's what this ex-Olympian is being charged with, to Jacoby's point earlier.
Okay. Yeah, we got the Olympics. They start on what, February 5th in Milan, Italy, which, I mean, if you're going to have that's a great city to have the Olympics in.
Compared to Olympics, yeah, they'll be in Milan.
It's a beautiful ass city. You can't beat Italy. And I haven't heard anything about whether it's going to be run very well.
Yeah, I haven't heard how it's going to be run, because sometimes they do these amazing things of running things. But as you know from LA, and as I know even from North Carolina, because we had one of those lead into the Olympics, like the Olympic Games or something like that, like several years back. And sometimes they build these wonderful things and then they are not used as much. So they're sitting there empty. I know that happened in LA, and I think it might have happened with a couple of things that they built even here in North Carolina.
Okay, so the Summer Olympics are coming to LA in 2028.
Right.
And we should do it okay, because we've had it twice before, and we have a ton of venues. We got a ton of sports stadiums. So they'd have to be really incompetent to screw it up. And we have 75,000 homeless people in LA. I don't know what we're going to do with them.
And they're still trying to figure that out, because where they're going to put them and everything like that. But are there some kinds of venues that you don't have that you will have to build? That's what I was thinking about even the last time, because I know that, like, even on the the bicycles that have that round track,
the velodrome.
The velodrome.
So some of the events are being farmed out. I think the baseball's being held in like Oklahoma, but we really shouldn't have to build a ton of new stuff. Now it might be an excuse, but our city government is marginally competent. A lot of people end up in prison for being corrupt after being on the city council, but I feel like we won't screw it up that badly.
Coming back to what Jacoby was talking about, apparently the Philadelphia is suing after the slavery exhibits were taken down from the president's house site. So Philly is suing the federal government after Independence Mall slavery exhibit was removed, and Trump administration removes a memorial honoring people enslaved by George Washington in Philadelphia. So they've dismantled the slavery exhibit.
Yeah, there's footage of guys with chisels, workers. There's this long frickin' display that probably, I don't know, is 50, 60, 80 feet long, where you just walk down this thing that discusses, slaves built a ton of early America.
Right.
Well, they built the White House, but Trump doesn't want people to have easy access to that part of our history. So these guys were chiseling these giant panels off the wall, and Philadelphia is suing about that.
Apparently the House, I'm going to come back to Venezuela, which we haven't talked about in a while, but apparently the House rejected a resolution that would bar Trump from sending troops to Venezuela, but they nearly won it and everything, because they nearly fended off the bid to limit Trump on Venezuela. So it looks like there was a Republican-led House blocks efforts to limit President Trump's war powers in Venezuela. So it looks like he won that particular battle and everything like that, but who knows whether that will be the case for a while. And all along those lines, wait a minute, I'm sorry, I just saw another story that caught me off guard past the Venezuela one, because I went ages ago, like decades ago, to Minneapolis. I mean, not Minneapolis, to Milwaukee, to school at Marquette and everything like that. And I'm seeing that Chicago public schools were closed Friday due to extreme cold. And as one that went to school in the Midwest, that is very rare. So apparently the wind chill temperatures became frigid, and the school is closing in places amid Cook County, Illinois, due to extreme cold warnings and everything. So the Chicago public schools and their suburban districts canceled classes Friday due to frigid temperatures, and they've got to be real cold in the Midwest for them to call off.
Chicago has miserable weather a lot of the time. It's right on what is it, Lake Michigan? What lake? And the wind comes. Chicago's called the Windy City. The wind comes off the lake. Like I grew up in Colorado and it got cold, but it wasn't too miserable because low humidity. but if it's wet and cold, it's bad. And so, yeah, when the weather is cold in Chicago, yeah, it's super nasty.
And apparently, Putin talks with U.S. envoys are sputtering as UAE is hosting a new round of peace talks. And apparently, they're saying it's down to one or two issues. Sasha isn't here today, but hopefully he'll be back from his trip and vacation shortly, and he can share more about what's going on in that space. But yeah, there's still these talks going on and efforts to try to give us some peace in the that part of the world in Europe and everything. So it looks like they have announced for sure U.S., Ukraine, Russia talks in UAE, which is part of it's the first known trilateral talks of the war. So it looks like the U.S., Ukraine, and Russia will be meeting in for talks in Abu Dhabi over war settlement. So it looks like maybe there's some efforts on a peace talk, because this was just reported a couple of hours ago and everything like that. So it looks like
the FCC. There's another story. The FCC is trying to mess with The View, which is ABC's daytime talk show where 5 women sit around a table and talk about issues and other stuff. And they often have guests, and going after Kimmel again, going after Colbert, because there used to be a thing called equal time doctrine, where if you had a show, if you had a Democrat candidate on, you had to invite the Republican also. That hasn't been exercised in decades. But there
was a whole popular show. It's actually what I described your show as, and everything like that, meaning Naked at Night, because in some ways, even though you have other elements that they did not have, because you have the entertainment element with JD and with some of the other folks involved, but in some ways, when you and Lance are debating, even though y'all get a little boisterous and everything, it reminds me of the old TV show Point Counterpoint and everything, which is basically what y'all are doing and everything like that, even though sometimes one of you gets a stronger point and then the other one, but that even happened in that old show.
I mean, it's like point counterpoint, except we're both idiots. Point counterpoint had like competent people. So here you've got 2 idiots yelling at each other. But
speaking of idiots, and I have a story for if Lance was here, I would share it with him. But apparently, he's a great artist, and he's an amazing artist. He's doing that artist of the model and everything like that. Cassidy, I believe, is her name, and we'll see what the final product looks like after a series of weeks and everything like that. But they have found some rock art from at least 67,800 years ago in Sulawesi and everything like that. So there was a hand stencil that apparently is the world's oldest human-made art. So it was apparently the world's oldest rock art in that particular region and everything. So it was just discovered, and it apparently could even rewrite the origin story and all along those.
Yeah, they keep finding stuff that drives the point in prehistory when we truly became human, further and further back. I think 10,000 years ago is kind of the date that people think that civilization started. But now you said they found art from 60,000 years before that.
Right.
67. And in some part of the world, they found apes making spears. And we like to think we're the only species that uses tools, but they find counter examples to all this stuff. They found a fire pit in England that I don't know, was from that humans had discovered fire like 100,000 years earlier than we thought.
Yep. And apparently there was Microsoft 365 was having an issue. So apparently they had an outage dragged on for nearly 10 hours during a bad night for North America infrastructure. I know there have been incidences in the past in Texas and other places. And apparently a database leak exposed 149 million logins, including Gmail and Facebook. So major leak exposed 149 million credentials with Instagram, one of our favorite places. I'm being sarcastic because I know that Nick brings it up and you do as well. OnlyFans and TikTok passwords. So apparently a whole lot of passwords have been leaked and everything like that. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I'm sure they'll ask people to change their passwords. In fact, I just changed some of mine, even not knowing about this incident a couple of days ago and everything. So yeah.
Let's talk about OnlyFans for half a sec. I used to come on here and say that OnlyFans has 1.1 million people who put pictures up there, sexy pictures that people can pay for. I think that number has changed. I now see that it's 3.3 million people have content on OnlyFans, which is more than the number of doctors and cops in the U.S. combined.
Yeah.
So, we are entering the golden age of pornfluencers.
Porn influencers and reactors, because I learned that term from Coco McMillan on our network show, because she's had this young lady on now twice who is a reactor, which means that they make a whole lot of influence and make a whole lot of content and everything like that, and they're basically reacting to other people's work, whether it's a singer, like a well-known singer, or whether it's a well-known actor and everything. But there's this whole title where you can be a reactor, and sometimes the people that you are reacting to will even respond back to you, because I think that they said they heard from like one of the famous actors that they had a reaction to, and even some of the singers that they had a reaction to. So this is this whole other thing that OnlyFans are doing, and I think she's got this young lady that was on Faith has a TikTok account and a number of other accounts. But like I said, she's making a pretty significant amount of hits from just reacting to other people's work.
That seems to be a reasonable business model on OnlyFans, where people feel guilty about, of just jerking off to pictures of people. If you can feel like you're friends with the person that you're paying to see sexy pictures of, and that they're a real person, I think that you feel less creepy. And that's what people on OnlyFans are doing. That they don't just show their butts. They might teach you how to make bruschetta, or they might react to a music video. And the whole strategy there is to become friends with your sponsors. And some of the bigger accounts hire people to interact with their hundreds of subscribers on a one-on-one basis.
I'm wondering, because you worked as a stripper way back when and everything, if there are reactors to some of the porn stars of the world, and whether there are people that are reacting to those videos saying that they did a great job and all along those lines, and maybe some of the porn stars actually react back and say that I'm glad that you.
Yeah, no, that's part of the deal. The people want, they have these porn conventions where you can meet with your favorite actresses, in person, ton of security, because some of the 10% of the fans are going to be like creepy incels who don't understand boundaries. But that's the business model. The porn actresses don't make much money from porn. They make money by becoming famous in porn, and then they go on tour. They hit they make personal appearances at strip clubs across America, and that's where they make the money. They go on the road. It's,
Well, speaking of things that are outdated and all along those lines, we got just a few more minutes to go and everything. Apparently, Apple is getting ready to ship millions of $2,000 foldable iPhones. And I do remember the old flip phone and everything like that. So I'm imagining that's what a foldable iPhone will look like and everything like that. But why would you want a foldable iPhone? Because apparently
because they don't look like the flip phones, because they're as big as an iPhone, but then you can open them up and get a screen that's this big.
Okay.
So, but I want to go back to the porn business, where the boyfriends of porn stars, a name for them is suitcase pimps, because when the porn stars go on the road, their boyfriends are the ones who are hauling the suitcases.
Yep, they got the suitcase and got all the makeup outfits and everything like that. I'm not sure if the boyfriends, well, sometimes the boyfriends are in the same industry, but sometimes they're not, and maybe they're not there in the scenes when they're doing the scenes, because I don't know if you want to be seeing your girlfriend having sex with somebody other than yourself and everything like that. But some of them, they know what they're getting into, so they know that that's going to be the case. I want to come back to technology, because I know you're a technology kind of guy and everything, but Apple is planning to launch an AI-powered wearable pen device as soon as 2027. So apparently this is going to be a wearable pen that will be AI-powered and everything like that. So it looks like this is one of the new things that's going out. So maybe you'll just ask the AI as you're walking down, which can create this whole another notion of, are you talking to yourself and everything like that? And you got this AI pin and you're asking the AI pin, like, should I go to this restaurant or that restaurant? So apparently this is a new thing with AI powered wearables. So are you getting any of these wearables? Because apparently Apple's developing an AirTag size AI pin device.
Okay, I mean it's no, I'm not that tech savvy. My wife has to, when we are trying to figure out how to add like Paramount Plus to our TV, she's the one who figures it out. So I'm a late adapter. But yeah, if you've got a little Jiminy Cricket on your lapel here,
Right.
that's great. And we tried Google Glass. Google rolled out Google Glass, which were glasses that let you take video. And 20 years ago, and people got punched for wearing them because people didn't like being on video. Now there are a ton of companies that offer wearable, glasses that take video. That I don't know if they have heads-up displays like fighter pilots have, like Ray-Ban offers this kind of thing. But yeah, it's all coming. What you want is a bracelet that monitors your blood levels of stuff and continuously like doses you with stuff.
And I know the bracelets exist because that's the Fitbits and stuff like that have been around for a while.
There's also the sticker, the insulin pump you put on your shoulder or someplace that continuously reads your blood sugar levels and delivers insulin to keep so you don't spike. Because having high blood sugar is like cooking yourself.
Yeah, it's like cooking yourself. I definitely have some friends that are in that space of having to deal with insulin and diabetes and stuff like that. I didn't know that sometimes it takes a long time, Rick, I know you know this because you're in the Hollywood area and everything like that, to develop some of these shows, including video games, because apparently the Fable director, Ralph Fulton, has been sharing on some of the media outlets his game details, because Fable is going to launch on PS5 in autumn of this year and everything. But they are reports that they've been working on this game for a really, really long time. And apparently this was the Fable interview with the Microsoft developer Playground and everything like that. So apparently this is a long-awaited game that has been out there for a while. So maybe it takes years, maybe even decades to get these things released and everything.
This is they're calling it Fable 4. So obviously there have been 3 previous
renerations of this.
Yeah, but I want to go back to diabetes for a second.
Yeah.
So when you put a turkey in the oven and you cook it for 10 hours and the skin gets all crunchy and delicious, that is, what do you call it? Well, anyway, when it gets browned, that's what your body does when it has too much sugar in it. You slowly cook and you get crunchy. And so you want to, diabetes makes your body clock go faster and you get cooked sooner. So you want to hold down your blood sugar levels and give your body less to cook with. And that's what these instantaneous insulin pumps do. If you got type 1 diabetes, they make sure that you don't have these spikes that cook you.
Yeah,
and I'm looking, and there's another drug, metformin, which works for type 2 diabetes, which again helps you keep down your blood sugar levels. And I feel like if you had a continuous metformin pump or other diabetes drugs that keep your blood sugar under 120 all the time, you could probably add 5 years to your life.
Yeah, probably could do that, and they find new ways to add life. We're going to get on out of here. I know that here in North Carolina, we're preparing for our ice and snow event that I have heard from people, including Jacoby and others, that it might not be as bad as they were projecting, but still I've already heard of cancellations and people considering cancellations because we're not really used to driving in ice and snow in this kind of bad weather, but it's supposed to be hitting the East Coast and supposed to be hitting on Saturday and Sunday. So we'll see if it's as bad as they're predicting it will be, or whether it will be a near miss and all along those lines. But y'all don't have to deal with that in California. Y'all just have to deal with fires.
No, the last time it snowed in LA was maybe 1948.
Wow. That's been a while. So yeah, it's been almost what, that's 80, almost 80 years. So yeah, it's been a while. So on that note, we're going to get out of here. I'll see you on Monday. Are we recording this week? Or are we recording?
Nope, next Sunday.
Next Sunday. All right. Well, I'll see you next Monday then.
All right, Monday. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Do say.